The scorching Peruvian sun beat down mercilessly on the archaeological dig site nestled in the remote Andes, where ancient terraces carved into mountainsides told stories of civilizations lost to time. Jake Martinez wiped sweat from his brow as he carefully brushed centuries of dirt away from what appeared to be the most extraordinary find of his young career. At 22, he was the youngest member of Dr. Elena Vasquez's expedition team, his enthusiasm for ancient mysteries often earning him gentle ribbing from the more seasoned archaeologists. "Holy shit," Jake whispered, his breath catching as more of the figure emerged from its earthen tomb. The statue, if that's what it was, possessed an otherworldly beauty that made his hands tremble as he worked. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, the figure had impossibly perfect proportions, with delicate features that seemed almost too refined for human artistry of any known period. Most striking were the intricate crystalline markings that traced elegant patterns across what appeared to be skin rather than stone. Dr. Vasquez approached, her weathered face creasing with curiosity. "What have you found, Jake?" Her Spanish accent carried the authority of 30 years in the field. Behind her, Marcus Chun, the team's tech specialist, aimed his camera at the discovery, while Sarah Thompson, their cultural anthropologist, took rapid notes. "I've never seen anything like this," Jake murmured, his fingers hovering inches from the statue's face. The features were undeniably feminine, with high cheekbones and full lips that seemed to curve in the faintest suggestion of a smile. But it was the eyes that captivated him most close, as if in peaceful sleep, yet somehow giving the impression they might open at any moment. The craftsmanship is beyond anything the pre-Incan cultures were known for. And these markings, he traced the air above the crystalline patterns. They're not carved. They look like they're part of the material itself. As the afternoon wore on, the team worked to fully excavate their mysterious find. Carbon dating would have to wait until they returned to civilization, but the surrounding artifacts suggested the statue had been buried for at least 3,000 years. Yet, unlike everything else they'd uncovered, this figure showed no signs of weathering or decay. That evening, as the team gathered around their campfire under a canopy of stars more brilliant than any city dweller could imagine, the conversation inevitably turned to their enigmatic discovery. The statue now rested under a protective tarp in their main tent, but Jake found his thoughts continually drifting back to those perfect features. "It's probably some kind of ceremonial piece," Sarah suggested, taking a sip of her coffee. "Maybe. Representing a goddess or spiritual figure. The attention to anatomical detail suggests it held significant importance." Marcus nodded, adjusting his glasses. "The mineral composition is unlike anything in our databases. Whatever they used to create it, it's not indigenous to this region, maybe not even to this continent." Dr. Vasquez remained thoughtful. "There are local legends about star people who visited these mountains long ago. The villagers in the nearest settlement still speak of them, though most scholars dismiss such stories as mythology." Jake felt an inexplicable pull toward the tent. "What if it's not mythology?" he said quietly. "What if there's more to this than we understand?" His colleagues exchanged glances. Jake's intuition had led to several important discoveries during the expedition, but this felt different. There was something about the statue that called to him in ways he couldn't explain, as if it were waiting for something or someone. Asterisk, the camp had settled into peaceful quiet by midnight, with only the gentle crackling of dying embers and distant Andean winds disturbing the silence. Jake lay in his sleeping bag, staring up at the tent ceiling, unable to shake the image of the statue's serene face from his mind. After an hour of restless tossing, he gave up on sleep and quietly slipped outside. The archaeological site looked otherworldly under the full moon's silver light, casting long shadows across the ancient ruins. Jake found himself drawn to the main tent where their discovery rested, his feet moving almost of their own accord across the rocky terrain. He told himself he just wanted another look, maybe to sketch some details he'd missed earlier. Inside, the tent, portable work lights cast a soft glow over the figure. Up close, the statue seemed even more lifelike, the crystalline markings catching and refracting the light in mesmerizing patterns. Jake pulled up a folding chair and sat facing the mysterious woman, studying every perfect curve and line. "Who are you?" he whispered into the stillness. "What were you meant to be?" As if responding to his words, one of the crystalline patterns seemed to pulse faintly with inner light. Jake blinked, certain he'd imagined it, but the phenomenon repeated a soft, rhythmic glow like a heartbeat made visible. His scientific training warred with growing wonder as he leaned closer. The statue's lips, which had seemed carved in eternal stillness, now appeared softer somehow, more natural. Without conscious thought, Jake reached out and gently touched the figure's cheek. The surface felt warm, yielding like living flesh, rather than cold stone. "This is impossible," he breathed, yet he couldn't pull his hand away. The warmth seemed to spread from the point of contact, and those rhythmic pulses of light grew stronger, more frequent. Jake had always been impulsive. It was both his greatest strength and his most dangerous weakness. In high school, it was. Jake who'd climbed the water tower on a dare. In college, he'd switched majors 3 times following sudden passionate interests. And now, sitting in a tent in the Peruvian Andes with what might be the archaeological discovery of the century, that same impulsive nature overwhelmed his better judgment. "For luck," he whispered, echoing the words of countless dares from his past. Before reason could intervene, he leaned forward and pressed his lips gently against the statues. The effect was instantaneous and overwhelming. Electric energy surged through him like lightning, every nerve ending igniting with sensation he'd never experienced. The crystalline markings across the figure's skin blazed with brilliant light, pulsing in waves that seemed to synchronize with his own racing heartbeat. Then the impossible happened. The statue's eyes fluttered open. Jake jerked backward, his chair toppling as he scrambled to his feet. But he couldn't look away from those eyes, deep violet in color, filled with an intelligence both ancient and startlingly present. The figure's chest rose and fell with her first breath in millennia, and those perfect lips parted as she whispered something in a language that predated human civilization. Yet somehow, impossibly, Jake understood her. "Thank you for waking me," she said, her voice like music made of starlight. "I am Zara of the Ethereal Collective, and I have been waiting so very long for this moment." The tent filled with otherworldly light as she slowly sat up, her movements graceful despite 3,000 years of stillness. Jake stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what he was witnessing. Every rational thought screamed that this couldn't be happening, yet the evidence of his senses was undeniable. You're alive," he stammered. Zara's lips curved in a gentle smile that made his heart skip. "I am now. Your kiss broke the temporal stasis that held me." But Jake Martinez, she spoke his name as if she'd always known it. "This awakening changes everything." The next few hours passed in a blur of wonder and growing understanding as Zara explained her origins. She spoke in perfect English now, her alien consciousness somehow interfacing with Jake's mind to bridge the language barrier. They sat together in the tent, the space between them crackling with an energy that seemed to bend reality around its edges. "My people, the Ethereal Collective, have watched your species for millennia," Zara explained, her violet eyes never leaving Jake's face. "We are explorers, seekers of knowledge and connection across the cosmos. 3,000 years ago, I volunteered for a deep monitoring mission to enter temporal stasis and observe humanity's development, awakening only when your people reached sufficient advancement for first contact." Jake struggled to process the magnitude of what she was telling him. "But I'm just an archaeology student. I'm not anyone important enough for first contact." Zara reached out tentatively, her fingers barely brushing his hand. The touch sent warmth spreading up his arm. The stasis protocol was designed to respond to technological triggers, certain electromagnetic signatures, specific atomic configurations. But there was another failsafe, one added by our philosophers who believed in the power of connection itself. Connection? Love, Jake. The protocol included parameters for awakening if someone felt genuine affection for my preserved form. It was considered a romantic notion by most of our scientists. Her smile held both sadness and wonder. They never expected it to actually happen. As she spoke, Jake began experiencing flashes of images that weren't his own memories. Vast crystalline cities floating among stars. Beings of incredible beauty and wisdom debating the fate of countless worlds. And threaded through it all, a growing civil war that threatened to tear the ethereal collective apart. ***. What are these visions? He asked, pressing his palm against his temple as another wave of alien memories washed over him. Our minds are linked now, Zara explained, her expression growing troubled. The awakening created a psychic bond between us. You're seeing fragments of my memories, my world. But Jake, there's something else you need to know. My early awakening has triggered an emergency beacon. Others of my kind will be coming. That's good, right? Your people will be excited to make contact. Zara's crystalline markings dimmed, and Jake felt her distress through their newfound connection. The collective is divided. There are those, like me, who see humanity as a species worth nurturing, worth protecting. We believe in your potential for growth, for joining the greater cosmic community. And the others? They view humanity as a threat. Your species' rapid technological advancement, your capacity for both creation and destruction. They fear what you might become. They call themselves the Purifiers. And they believe the only way to protect the universe is to eliminate humanity before you can spread beyond your solar system. The weight of her words settled over Jake like a physical presence. Through their bond, he could feel the depth of her fear, not for herself, but for his entire species. How long do we have? Days, perhaps less. The beacon will have reached. Both factions simultaneously. The Purifiers will come in force, while my allies will send only a small diplomatic mission. They still believe in protocols and proper procedures. She stood gracefully, her movements causing the crystalline patterns on her skin to shift and flow like living art. But there is hope. Jake, my mission wasn't just to observe. I was tasked with locating and activating an ancient defense network. Defense? Network? Hidden within humanity's oldest monuments are components of a planetary shield system, installed by an earlier generation of ethereals who believed your species would one day need protection. The Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, Easter Island, dozens of sites around your world contain dormant technology disguised as human architecture. Jake felt excitement building despite the danger. That's why you are placed here, near the ruins. This site is part of the network. Yes, but activation requires specific harmonic frequencies and energy patterns. And more importantly, she turned to face him fully, her eyes holding depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. It requires the combined will of both an ethereal and a human working in perfect synchronization. Outside the tent, Jake heard the first stirrings of his team beginning their morning routines. Dr. Vasquez would be making her coffee soon, and Marcus would be checking his equipment. They had no idea that everything they thought they knew about. Human history was about to change. What happens to us? Jake asked quietly. To this connection between us? Zara's expression softened, and through their bond, he felt the echo of emotions that mirrored his own growing feelings. I don't know. The psychic link has never been documented before. But Jake, I need you to understand saving your world. may require me to sacrifice myself to power the planetary defenses. The thought hit him like a physical blow. He'd known her for mere hours, yet the connection between them felt deeper than any relationship he'd ever experienced. The idea of losing her so soon after finding her was unbearable. Dawn brought chaos to the archaeological camp. Dr. Vasquez discovered Jake and Zara together in the tent, and what followed was perhaps the most surreal conversation in human history. After the initial shock, and Marcus nearly fainting when Zara demonstrated her abilities by making the crystalline markings on her skin glow in response to his stammered questions, the team found themselves thrust into circumstances that defied every scientific principle they'd studied. Satellites are detecting massive electromagnetic anomalies in Earth's upper atmosphere, Marcus reported, frantically typing on his laptop while trying to process the impossible reality of an alien woman sitting calmly beside their morning campfire. Whatever's coming, it's big. Sarah, ever the anthropologist, peppered Zara with questions about ethereal culture while simultaneously documenting everything with the methodical precision of someone whose worldview had just been completely shattered. Dr. Vasquez after her? Initial shock had quickly shifted into expedition leader mode, understanding that whatever was happening was far beyond the scope of normal archaeological discovery. "We need to move," Zara said urgently, her violet eyes scanning the sky. Through their psychic connection, Jake could feel her growing anxiety. "The purifiers will have traced the beacon to this location. They'll arrive within hours. Where do we go?" Jake asked, helping her to her feet. Even that simple contact sent warmth coursing through him, their bond strengthening with each touch. "Machu Picchu first. It's the closest node in the network, and we'll need to activate each site in a specific sequence to establish the planetary shield." Zara's expression grew pained. "But Jake, your people, they're in danger just by being near me." Dr. Vasquez overheard and stepped forward with characteristic determination. "We're not leaving you. If what you're saying is true, then this is bigger than any discovery we've ever imagined. We're in this together." The team worked with desperate efficiency to pack their essential equipment, leaving behind years of careful excavation to focus on what might be humanity's last hope. As they loaded their vehicles, Jake felt the first tremor of something massive entering Earth's atmosphere. The journey to Machu Picchu became a race against time through winding mountain roads. In the passenger seat beside Jake, Zara guided them, while simultaneously monitoring the approaching alien vessels through her enhanced senses. Her crystalline markings pulsed with increasing frequency, and Jake could feel her stress through their connection. "Tell me about your world," he said, hoping to calm her nerves and his own. "What's it like?" Zara's expression softened as she shared images through their bond-floating cities of impossible beauty, beings of light and energy working in harmony with nature, art forms that combine technology and consciousness in ways humans hadn't even imagined. "It's peaceful mostly, or it was before the schism. The purifiers weren't always extremists. They began as philosophers questioning whether we had the right to interfere in the development of other species." What changed them? Fear. They witnessed the destruction caused by several advanced civilizations that had been contacted too early. Species that used gifted technology for conquest and annihilation. They decided that intervention of any kind was too dangerous. Behind them, Marcus monitored government communications on his modified radio equipment. "Military satellites are tracking multiple objects," he reported. "They're scrambling fighter jets, but I don't think they understand what they're dealing with." The ruins of Machu Picchu appeared ahead, the ancient Incan citadel perched impossibly on its mountain ridge. But as they approached, Jake realized they weren't alone. Black SUVs were parked near the tourist entrance, and figures in dark clothing moved among the terraces. Government agents, Dr. Vasquez identified grimly. They must have detected the same anomalies we did. Zara closed her eyes, extending her consciousness outward. There's something else. The first Purifier scout ship has landed. They're all ready. Here, Jake. They're searching for me. Through their bond, Jake felt Zara's fear spike as she sensed the approaching danger. But beneath the fear was something else, a growing warmth that he realized mirrored his own deepening feelings for her. In the span of less than 24 hours, she had become more important to him than anything else in his life. There's a service road that leads to the back entrance, Sarah said, consulting her guidebooks. If we can avoid the main tourist area. The next hour was a blur of desperate maneuvering through ancient stone pathways, avoiding both government agents and the increasing signs of alien presence. Strange lights flickered among the ruins, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with otherworldly energy. Finally, they reached the heart of the citadel, where Zara approached a section of perfectly fitted stone blocks that looked identical to every other wall in the complex. But as she placed her hands against the surface, the stones began to glow with the same crystalline patterns that marked her skin. "This is it," she whispered. "The first node." Jake stepped beside her, their fingers intertwining as the ancient technology responded to their combined presence. Power unlike anything he'd ever imagined flowed through him, and for a moment he could sense the vast network of hidden defenses scattered across the globe, waiting to be awakened. But their triumph was short-lived. The sound of aircraft approaching echoed across the mountain peaks, and through their psychic link, Jake felt Zara's terror as she sensed what was coming. "Purifier attack ships," she gasped. "They've found us." The sky above Machu Picchu erupted into chaos as alien vessels emerged from concealment, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The pursuing government helicopters seemed primitive by comparison, their missiles ineffective against technology that bent the laws of physics. Jake pulled Zara closer as energy beams scorched the ancient stones around them. Through their psychic bond, he could feel her anguish at witnessing her own people attacking the world she'd been sent to protect. The partially activated defense node pulsed with unstable energy, its ancient systems struggling to come online after millennia of dormancy. "We need to reach the other sites," Zara said urgently, her crystalline markings blazing with power as she deflected an energy blast that would have vaporized them both. A network requires at least 5 nodes to establish a stable planetary shield. Dr. Vasquez and the team had taken shelter behind a section of Incan stonework, but Jake could see the fear in their eyes as they watched alien weapons tear through solid rock like paper. Marcus was frantically documenting everything on his camera, his scientific instincts overriding terror, while Sarah scribbled notes about what might be humanity's first and last contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. "How do we get out of here?" Jake shouted over the sound of energy weapons and crumbling stone. Zara's eyes closed as she reached out with her consciousness, searching for alternatives. "There's a diplomatic ship approaching from the other faction, my allies. They're trying to negotiate, but the purifiers won't listen." Her expression grew pained. "Jake, there's something I haven't told you. The planetary defense system. It requires a massive energy source to activate fully." Through their bond, he felt the truth before she spoke it aloud. "You're the energy source. An ethereal consciousness, willingly given, can power the network for centuries. It was always meant to be a sacrifice mission." Tears that sparkled like liquid starlight ran down her cheeks. "I accepted that when I volunteered. But that was before ... double quotes. Before what? Before I met you. Before this connection we share. Jake, in all our species' history, we've never documented a psychic bond like ours. It shouldn't be possible between an ethereal and a human." She turned to face him fully, her violet eyes holding depths of emotion that transcended species barriers. I think I'm falling in love with you, and I don't know if I can make the sacrifice anymore. The confession hit him like a physical force. In less than 2 days, this incredible woman had awakened feelings in him that he'd never imagined possible. The thought of losing her to save his world created a conflict that threatened to tear him apart. There has to be another way, he said desperately. Some alternative we haven't considered. An explosion nearby showered them with debris as a purifier beam struck a section of ancient wall. The partially activated defense node flickered unstably, its energy patterns becoming increasingly chaotic. The node's failing, Zara reported, her hands pressed against the glowing stones. Without proper stabilization, it'll overload and destroy everything within a 50-mile radius. Jake made his decision with the same impulsive courage that had led him to kiss what he thought was a statue. Ignoring Zara's protests, he placed his hands alongside hers on the ancient technology, pouring his own life force into the failing system. The effect was immediate and unexpected. Instead of the node stabilizing through his sacrifice, something unprecedented happened. Their psychic bond, strengthened by love and desperation, created a feedback loop that amplified both their energies exponentially. The defense node didn't just stabilize, it evolved, becoming something neither ethereal nor human technology had achieved alone. Impossible, Zara breathed, but Jake could feel her wonder through their connection. We're not powering the system, we're becoming part of it. Our combined consciousness is creating a new form of the network entirely. Around the world, ancient monuments began awakening in response to their joined will. The pyramids of Giza blazed with light visible from orbit. Stonehenge's massive stones hummed with harmonic frequencies that could be felt across continents. Easter Island's statues turned their faces skyward, their eyes glowing with protective energy. But the most remarkable change was in Zara herself. Her crystalline markings had begun spreading to Jake's skin wherever they touched, creating a visible manifestation of their psychic bond. He was becoming part ethereal, while she was gaining human characteristics, emotions, and impulses her species had long ago transcended. The planetary shield is holding, Marcus reported in amazement, watching readings on his instruments that defied explanation. But it's not like anything in Zara's people's records. It's something completely new. Above them, the attacking purifier ships found themselves unable to penetrate the evolved defense network. More importantly, the shield seemed to be affecting them psychologically, forcing them to experience human emotions, love, compassion, the desire to protect rather than destroy. It's working, Dr. Vasquez said in wonder. They're withdrawing. But Jake barely heard her. Through his bond with Zara, he was experiencing something profound. Their connection had grown beyond psychic linkage into something that transcended individual existence. They were becoming a new form of consciousness, part human, part ethereal, but entirely unique. What happens to us now? He asked. Zara smiled, her expression radiant with a joy that encompassed both species' capacity for happiness. We guard the Earth together. The network needs constant tending, and it responds best to consciousness born from love rather than duty. She pressed her forehead against his, their markings synchronizing in perfect harmony. We'll travel to the other nodes, strengthening the network and learning what it means to be both human and ethereal. And we'll document everything, Sarah added excitedly, already envisioning the revolutionary impact on anthropology and archaeology as the sun set over the ancient citadel. Jake realized that his impulsive decision to kiss what he thought was a statue had led to the most important discovery in human history, not just the existence of extraterrestrial life, but the possibility of connection that transcended all boundaries. The alien scout's mission had been to determine if humanity was ready for contact. Instead, she had found something neither species had anticipated, that love truly could bridge any gap, even between worlds separated by impossible gulfs of space and time dot in the growing darkness, their joined consciousness reached out to touch the awakened monuments worldwide, creating a network powered not by sacrifice, but by the endless potential of two hearts that had found each other across the vastness of the cosmos.